Evening. My name is Elise Giamacco Carlson, and once again, I wish to welcome you to our usually weekly, to our Daemonologie live broadcast. Broadcasting live invites you to contribute your questions and comments that are relevant to the topic on our message board. As I like to do at this point, here is your reminder that if you're going to like and share our video, now is the time while I tell you about Duo Daemonologie's upcoming live appearances. This Saturday, October 17th, the duo will present a talk at Parafest, Maine, to be held in Vassalboro, Maine. They'll be speaking at 12:15. There'll be different events going on every few minutes. On October 24th, the duo will be at the Wilson Castle Restoration Extravaganza, a great time in the Green Mountains for a good cause. Tickets are still available for various activities and at various prices. And newly added, I don't know if you saw this one yet on the Duo Daemonologie Facebook page, but on December 12th at 6 p.m. to midnight, 6 hours, the duo will have an interesting investigation in Winchendon, Massachusetts. The Murdoch Whitney House, the First Congregational Church, and the Isaac Morse House will be open to ticket holders that night. 3 investigations for the price of 1. Buy your tickets early. Maybe buy one for someone for a Christmas present. Remember that as the gentlemen discuss the topic, you are cordially invited to ask questions, and they will answer and relay information all relevant to the topic. If you have something that's a little bit off topic, save it for the Duo Daemonologie Facebook page or email. Send them an email. So, getting to tonight, when we hear the word cult, what comes to mind? Probably things like control, communes, followers, submission, and pyramid schemes to take all of your money. What actually defines a cult, separate from a legitimate organization that people may choose to dedicate their time and finances to? For instance, you wouldn't refer to the Red Hat Society of the Book of the Month Club as a cult, would you? Even though they have some of the same qualities. How about women with purple hair? There's a whole bunch of us, but we're not a cult. What factors might inspire a person to form a cult, become a leader, a group in which they are the supreme leader? Could these organizers be considered evil? That is certainly the feeling we get when we look at some of them. Why are some compelled to surrender their freedom and independence to align themselves with such leaders? What are the reasons they leave their real worlds and enter these lifestyles? These are the questions our panel will tackle tonight during their discussion. It's a topic that deals not so much with parapsychological as it does with psychological phenomena. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce you to the duoing right guys. I'm reading that. I didn't write it, so that's why it comes off like a dad joke. Author and demonologist Carl L. Johnson and seminarian theologian James Annitto. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise.
That's just smooth. I like it.
I like it. Yeah, it was funny. It's always funny to hear it.
Give us our personality. And I never know just what she's going to say.
Yeah.
Something unpredictable.
And there's always a witty joke, and that one, I'm assuming, was written by you at the end of. But
well, she emulsified it.
It wasn't me and it wasn't you. Guess who it was.
It definitely wasn't me, but
yeah,
I give it to you, Carl. That was good, but at least extravagant intro as always.
She brought it to life. We just had the basic components there, you know. Yeah, she's the lowest lane of the paranormal circles, I'll tell you. Well, what are we going to talk about tonight? I think she said something about cults.
Well, to be upfront, yes, cults, right?
Yes.
But it was Elise's idea.
Yeah, we thank Elise for this because this was Elise's concept that our topic tonight be about cults. And that does relate to the paranormal.
It does.
You know, very much so.
And demonology, in fact, because of the things that we deal with, the cases and evil nature.
And sometimes we run into what could be considered in a very big way cults.
Yeah.
Cult activity is a term we use.
And we have come across it in some form or fashion.
Okay, now we need to define what is and what isn't a cult. Technically. And sometimes there's a very fine line between what is and what isn't.
Definitely. Well, you know, what would your definition of cult be? Because Social science, which is sociology, looks at as cult as something specific, where there's 3 things that are required for a cult to be a cult. So how would you define it, Carl? I would like to hear that.
Just off the top of my head, a social congregate that dictates its followers surrender their freedom of thought and their own volition. And you subjugate yourself to the leadership. That even opens some wide margin of interpretation, but it's where you're surrendering free will.
No, most definitely.
I think free thought is discouraged.
Well, not to get too jump into the conversation, but really the word cult, even though in some form or fashion has been around for a long time, it wasn't a large phenomenon until Mr. Jim Jones had 1,000 of his followers kill themselves, and then that is when you started seeing books, psychology write about cults and sociology write about cults. So, he got 1,000 people to Jonesville. That was at Jonesville, right? Mm-hmm. And he had 1,000 people kill themselves, saying because they'd be going to the promised land.
Yeah.
So it's interesting with your definition of cults, where the exploitation of people, like the using of people, and I would say, for people that are interested on understanding what makes a cult is, 1, we need a charismatic leader.
Yeah,
2,
there are requirements, criteria. You might
2,
say.
mind control, and 3, exploitation. And
exploitation is a good delineator.
Yeah,
delineation of that. Yeah. Now, I think the penultimate example would probably be Jim Jones and Jonesville. What was going on there, because that was so splashed into the news, and was just horrendous what happened there, and it happened so well. It seems so suddenly. Because this was someone who was, his photograph of Jim Jones as an evangelist. He's with Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, the president and the first lady, and he was well respected for a time and all that. But there were little bits of information about his cultish church leaking out, and but people were afraid to actually expose it. Fear of consequences, or fear of just being ridiculed by the church, and later of actual threats for their safety, which were carried out a number of times. Yes.
So in that form, where we have dealt with cults, not specifically cult the person, but some of the backlashes or some of the splashback of cult activity within the cases that we deal with.
Well, yeah, you do, and you find. I mean, it may be on small scale, but still, to find evidence of sacrifice and followers, and the things. Well, there was the Carl Drew case in Freetown, Massachusetts, was very notorious, and that was very small scale. We're talking about perhaps at its height 12 adherents to that, but still horrendous crimes. There was actually one woman who left their cult, was beheaded. She was murdered.
I can imagine.
And I've heard the grisly details about that. So
and not to be wrong with that, and I'm not to say, I think there's a lot of misconceptions with Satanism, but that was part of a satanic cult, right? That those murders in the Freetown State Forest.
Well, I think they were giving Satanists a bad name.
Well,
too late for that.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's what his intent was, or his usage of.
It was empowerment, and it was something that started out as a minor cult, but really got out of hand. It's just the maniacal advance of this cult. But it was contained. It was only in that town. It is not like they had chapters in other villages or towns or states. But horrible. It shows how this can get so quickly out of hand, like like a contained wildfire. Contradiction in terms, but it does spread quickly. This mania. And to get to that point, fortunately, it was just extinguished early on because their leader and the leadership, they were just too bizarre, too out of control for to really catch on as a widespread cult, system of followers.
I think I had a question that I
already.
I think I do, because all 3 of us are very well versed in cults. Elise loves it. She brought this topic up because of her seeing Nexium, which is a whole nother crazy cult. Which we'll talk a lot about these cults from start to finish are like some of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've always kind of been interested in, where this can also link to the parapsychology realm.
Yes, you did talk about the connection, like
if these cults,
parapsychology, but psychological phenomena.
Yeah, but think about it. We talk about psychological phenomenon all the time, and we talk about parapsychology, the paranormal phenomenon. But what into the same T, Carl, if you're taking these cults, some with their own deities, their own people that they worship, and some of these are non-physical beings. What happens if they are enough collective consciousnesses within that cult? Could they create something?
Oh, I know what you're saying. Something like the Philip experiment gone tragically wrong. You know, are they creating actually something on a metaphysical level? Are they actually producing their own gods and goddesses?
Could you imagine?
Demons. I think they are to a degree.
Yeah.
If only rooted in the mind, it becomes it taps into the collective unconscious. To quote Carl Gustav Jung, and they actually can create their own gods, and maybe they exist on some level. There's a theory about that. But if enough belief and enough energy is concentrated in these beliefs and these forms that they envision, maybe the thing does exist somehow. Maybe it can move things around the room. Maybe it can strike at people. You know?
So maybe these people that are part of these cults that are mind controlled and exploited.
Because it can't be just all imagination. You know, they're seeing something. They're getting some response from their gods and their deities that they're invoking. So there has to be something to that.
Well, in some form or fashion, not to talk about specific large religions, but social science has a mathematic equation where it says cult plus time equals religion.
I like that.
Yeah.
Cult plus time, given enough time elapsing, you know, and for it to develop, equals religion. Mm-hmm. So you're equating religion, and there's no good way to say it, but just being, you know, objectively phrasing it. A mega cult would be a religion.
Could be, definitely.
And that's not necessarily a bad or evil thing.
No, and a lot of these religions, and you can take out of the context, you know, where a cult, back to the same point of mind control, exploitation, and charismatic leader.
There is always that.
But there is, but a lot of these bigger religions don't tend to, especially a lot of the monotheistic religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They don't technically have that exploitation. They're like telling you to go kill yourself. A lot of them, especially Christianity, is telling you to be a good person, and if you're not a good person, bad things will happen to you. But there are cults, mass religions, that say, you know, you have to do this. You were a part of one, were you not?
I definitely was, yes. And it was a church back in the 1980s. Yeah, I was pulled into it. Well, it had a cult-like mania to it. Let's see, how discreet can I be? I don't want to be discreet about it. This was the Providence Church of Christ in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was a planting of the Boston Church. And they exerted some awesome control over their followers, one of which I was, but I was always a delinquent follower. I will say that, you know. And I was punished for it, you know. I was singled out. But it's security and conformity. It's, you know, everybody adhere to the leader. Everybody act and behave. In fact, I was castigated once by the church leadership that, you know, like, how come you're so, you know, you're not honest? How come you're not telling the truth to us? I said, I said, it sounds awful, but I never lie. What would I lie about? They say, no, you're lying about yourself. I said, how so? Because you're not showing yourself. And as I heard more of this, I realized it's because I didn't have the stamped out personality, the cookie cutter personality that I was supposed to have. Answer the same way, you know, be the same way, have the same views on everything. The herd mentality, the sheep mentality, and all that. So that was, you know, it was a church, and ostensibly they were living according to the dictates of the beliefs of the first century church in Ephesus and Antioch. You know, actually we were supposed to be like a little Antioch there. You know, we were living according to the tenets of the Bible of first century Christians. Yep. And really what it did was it just exposed people's human foibles more. You know, I had to see if that had a place in my life, and that's why I was a member for the several years I was. But yeah, there were things like once you're indoctrinated further in, I don't know why they don't have the chutzpah to tell you right off, you know, but because people would leave. but there were midnight raids, and like we were told to surrender our finances. I ran into trouble when I didn't surrender my bank account number. That's I wouldn't give that. And we were also told directly, that was inferred that we had to do that. Well, actually, after a while, they came out about it. But it was total disclosure. That's how they put it. But the leadership had life or death control over the followers, over the congregants. And this is what we were told. They said, well, we would never do this, but you've got to realize that if leadership, meaning everybody could boss you around, everybody really wanted to be a leader.
You said, kill yourself.
Yeah.
Kill yourself.
Yeah. If we tell you to jump off a cliff, you have to do it because this is God talking through us. So if you defy us, you're defying God.
Yeah.
I am not paraphrasing. I'm quoting that. And it's like, it's time for me to check out of this. I realized I was staying as long as I did because I had good friends in the church. And I was looking over my former spouse who was still a member, and kept her on my health insurance. But so this is not a reason to stick around for something like this. And so eventually I did leave, and that was questionable too, because like, what is he going to say? Well, what I'm saying now, pretty much. But no, it's just, but it seemed to be a statement of faith that I became involved with this church. Yeah, I got to take it seriously. Yeah, there's going to be some sacrifice, but there was a super pitch for money, like surrender your finances, give us your bank account.
True exploitation.
Now, I'm somewhat familiar with the Pentateuch and the law of Moses and all that, but
we were just talking about that.
And in the New Testament, and Jesus says, surrender unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give unto God what is God's. But I didn't find any scripture that said, give us your checking account number, that dash at the end, so we make sure we got it right.
Oh, yeah.
Give us your bank. Have us, you can deliver your bank statements to us.
Well, the Bible actually basically, though, especially, while we talked about this, not to interrupt you, but,
Well, I pretty much said it,
I'm a deacon with the United States Old Catholic Church, but, I'm actually teaching in class Introduction to the Old Testament. So the one thing that the Bible doesn't say is, of course, it goes against is greed, right? Wanting money, so it's like you have a Church of Christ saying, give me all your money, and, exploiting you for it. But the Bible doesn't say that, like you said. So it's prime example.
Of course, we were also taught that any thought you have as a human being, any thought you have comes either from God or the devil. Kind of sounds good, that way you don't have to make any decisions.
Yeah.
But you abdicate responsibility.
To them, yeah.
However, they were the manifestations. They were told that. They were gods on earth. They were God on earth. They were producing God. And I'm not saying it was totally a negative experience. We did have a lot of Bible learning, but it's another organization that got way out of hand, and it was exposed on television.
At least, to get you, you're muted, but at least to get you in the conversation. Out of all the cults that have existed in time, and that this is, of course, I want to talk about Father Divine a little bit later in the show, but throughout, like Father Divine to like Heaven's Gear, Nexium, Manson, what would you look at as like a cult that kind of like sticks in your mind, like this is crazy?
Well, while you guys are talking about the exploitation of money, of course, give us all your money because that's what you're supposed to do, to be indebted to us, literally. And also, there are cults that it's not a religion thing where you have to give up everything to us so that we have some supreme control over you. One of the examples is in that Nexium. Once you reach a certain level, they actually ask you to provide your own blackmail content. You're in so deep that they say, you've come so far. We want you to really stay with us and be the cream of the crop. Oh, yeah, I definitely want to do that. Well, to prove that you're sincere about this, we want either the deed to your house. We want some kind of information that, your internet browsing history. You find out, they find out you're gay or something, and, it's just unacceptable. They're going to let everybody know. They will actually ask you to provide your own blackmail content to prove that you are serious about taking the next step and being that dedicated to this level. I just find that fascinating in a psychological, sociological, whatever kind
Well,
of
in the Church of Christ,
realm.
in which I held membership, that was called confession.
Mm.
And confession was recorded.
Yeah.
Confession was documented.
Well, talking about NXIVM, man, we were kind of talking a little bit about before the show because of that program we watched. But it was always fascinating to me that these people that were part of it, like they would thought they were getting branded by the elements, but actually it was his initials.
Oh God, branded literally,
like
like cattle, like sheep.
In a nutshell, I mean, like I saw this a little bit of this on some show, and then I read about it, and then when that show, The Vow, came out, I was like, wow, I read about this stuff, and to actually see the people who are involved in it, people who are leaders. This one woman that's on the show now, I mean, you can equate it with Leah Remini on the Scientology show there. Mm-hmm. This woman like recruited like 2,000 people to belong to this. Then she realized it was wrong, and now she's trying to get everybody out. Jeez. But just it amazes me too that they, I guess you'd say, preyed upon people who were not. When you think of people who join cults, you think of people who don't belong to groups, feel a little left out of society, you feel left behind, and now this group welcomes them and they're going to be a big part of something, and that's why they join. It wasn't so with this place. These people were already leaders of industry, actors, actresses, just people looking for a little boost in their leadership skills, and they got sucked right in because it looked like so much fun, and before you knew it, all your friends are in there. So how do you get out now that all your friends are in there? You can't be the one to leave because you're going to leave them all behind.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like you think
I know that feeling very
well.
Like
you have to, like in Scientology, another perfect example is like all these people had to get to the next level. They had to make this certain amount of donation. It's like is that really like I understand like your karate usage earlier is like you know to get the next
level. Analogy.
Yeah, analogy, yes. And it's like to get your next belt, you have to have the camaraderie, but you also have to pay for it too. So, but not to the large scale of like to learn about this next bullshit book, you got to pay $1 million. Like for karate, it's not $1 million. In
Scientology, sometimes
it was $1 million.
It is $1 million.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like how don't you know at that point in time? Like this is like red alert signals don't go off in your head. Like
it's like when you buy a car and you buy a used car and you really like it, and then now you paid for this car. It's $5,000, whatever, and now it needs $1,000 in repairs. What do? Do I sink I already put $5,000 in it. Do I stay? Do I sink a little bit more money into it? Or do I just get out now? But I really like this car. And now I've got friends that, maybe I joined a car club for this kind of car. And now I'm involved. And well, what's a little bit more? And then what's a little bit more? Then what's a little bit more? Then next thing you know, you're over your head.
Yeah. Mine was under 13,000. And I put 9,000 into it altogether just to keep it running. But then again, I've had it for some years, so that's not a complaint.
It's too funny. Like you guys are linking so many things up. Like we're talking about the Old Testament and Moses and car salesman. Actually, a funny thing within the Mosaic law then that transitions through the covenant.
I'd like you to transition out to car sales.
Is the funny thing? Oh, I'm going to the car sales. So like Catholics always would say, or usually do say, buy a used car from a Catholic, you'll be good.
Yeah, sure.
Like that. You can sell a used car.
I sold cars. That's the I worked at Honda.
What haven't you done, James?
No, all right.
Not astronaut yet, but you get
not an astronaut or an astrophysicist.
Oh, astrophysicist. I actually have a question here on our message board from Shiona. Hello.
Oh, hello. That takes precedence, yes.
Yes, she asks, in Carl's experience, how easy was it to leave that cult? Did he encounter attempts to discourage or forbid him from leaving, and how did he handle it?
It was immensely difficult to leave, I would say, and I did get encouragement, you could say, to come back. I didn't receive any threats once I left. I was kind of a force to be reckoned with at that point anyway. I was totally disenchanted with them, disenfranchised. It was difficult on a personal level because of the good friendships I had forged. There was a strong fellowship there, you know. And how do I leave Scott? And how do I leave Brian? And how do I leave these people and probably won't see them again? Because you're not supposed to. You're not. You know, membership was not supposed to associate with anyone who had fallen away. I almost thought like falling asleep, fallen away. And again, the woman I was married to was still a member of this church, and I was kind of watching over her. And after a while, it was just too ridiculous. The push for money. The final sermon I could tolerate. Well, I was brought up in sermons too, you know. So I was always a black sheep there. Well, after the first year, I was, so to speak. But I went to one of our Wednesday night meetings, and the evangelist starts off, and I'll quote, you know, I hate talking about money. I hate it. But we have to talk about it. And there are a couple of factors that really got me away from it. But when the evangelist said, some of you have checking accounts, and bank accounts you have not told us about. And he leans forward on the podium. Are you holding back from God? And the fellowship around me, the people are going, you know, I'm a disgrace on the eyes of it. And I'm like, I wish I could say I got up and left right then, but I didn't. But I was like, that's it. I'm done now. And we had our world missions, which would attract, I don't know how many. It was tens of thousands, close to 30,000 would be there. One time, when it exceeded 30,000. And they would have our world missions rally in the Boston Garden, and that was full beyond capacity. And we would lift up holy hands. I like lifting up holy hands because I could do it longer than anybody. For some reason, I had that ability to keep my hands up without.
Did you do spirit fingers with it too?
No, I didn't, because I had hand puppets maybe. But you know, and people are like, but I'm like, oh, holy hands, you know. And you've got all these people chanting it, and the series of evangelists are browbeating us and tell us how worthless we are in the eyes of God, and they're saying, amen, amen, amen. And at the height of that, I said it in a full voice. I don't know if anybody heard me. This took guts in my position at that time, to look around without holding up holy hands, to look around and say out loud, every one of these people is wrong. Because you are thinking as one mind. You know, who am I, little Carl, to disagree with this huge body?
Huge hive.
It was like a hive mentality. And I went on, I said, every one of these people is wrong. And that took some personal fortitude, let's say that. And then I left after that, you know, but, and it's not like I never had any good times or any good moments with these people. Of course I did. It just became far too invasive. You had no privacy. You know, you were asked about your sex life. You were asked about every personal thought you had. What do you think? What have you been thinking? What was on your mind during the sermon? What was on your mind this morning? Things like that. That's more invasive than asking about your personal habits, because you were violating God. You were defying God if you did not answer. You know, I was ordered to get a vasectomy. I was ordered not to be in a play about H.P. Lovecraft because they thought he was a devil worshiper, and you know, all these things. And after a while, it's just like, I didn't want to say that I couldn't follow orders until I realized these are orders. You know, you had to. Yeah,
you couldn't be obedient to that.
No, I mean, wouldn't you like wouldn't God want people to come to God of your free will, because you make a decision, not because you are ordered to do these things, but you decide, it is your volition. You decide to obey God.
Yes and no, but the Old Testament.
Well, that's pretty tough to live by.
The Old Testament does advocate the forms where God made.
Well, they would exegete what scriptures were convenient to them at the time. They became masters at that. But you read another passage ahead and you find out it doesn't. You put it into context. But they would do that. They would exegete from the Bible and say, if you're not obeying this, it's Jesus said, unless a man hateth his mother and father, he hath no place for that. Well, they didn't use the King James version. No, that was too tough for them. But unless you hate your mother and father, you have no place. Read a little further ahead. It's not exactly how they mean it. Don't turn against your parents.
Yeah.
So all kinds of
the Ten Commandments.
All kinds of mental gymnastics, all kinds of mind games. So I just, after a while, I did, it did take some guts, but I walked away from all that. It felt very strange after having to be accountable and answer to people on such personal levels. Yeah, but it also felt very refreshing to think for myself,
Yes.
or to think for myself without consequence.
That's the mind control aspect of it. Like they want to break all the walls. They want to take you away from your family.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
They want you to be a part of their hive.
They wanted to get you away from any of these distractions like family, like loved ones.
That would take you away from being exploited.
Yeah, or sleep. Sleep's a bad thing. You take.
That's one of the big punishments in Scientology is you quit. You can't talk to anybody that's still
crazy.
in here.
Like family.
You leave by yourself, and that's
Family
it. They really,
like moms would forego their children because of them being wrapped up, and like people are like wondering, like, what does this have to do with demonology? Well, it's evil, and if evil deeds occur, can't things that are evil in non-physical forms feed off of that and create activity in the world?
That's what made me think of bringing this to you guys was, I've read about a lot of these people and I've seen shows about a lot of these people and what drives them. Yeah. Is it evil? I mean, what would drive somebody to want to be the supreme ruler over a bunch of other people? I mean, it's with Hitler, like they've done it in a different way. They're not convincing an army to drag everybody into a pit and kill them. But I mean, it's psychologically, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to exercise that much control over people. You always have to keep dibs on them. It's the quest for power.
Yeah.
That they would advocate their responsibilities so you can control them.
Yeah. See that's one thing, and not to make this too like Christianity versus cults, but if you look at those charismatic leaders that exploit their followers and make like they get their followers kind of like so to say, or their followers come to them, like Jesus Christ found his followers. So I don't, in the same way, like he found his followers, they followed him, but he would never exploit them. He would never control them. Like he was very earnest and honest in his approach. It's not like he would say, if you don't follow God, you're going to die right here and now. Like, so that, like, you can see like where certain leaders lead by example. And then you see some of these leaders like in cults, that it's meant for them and meant for their control, their eagerness to want to be like the alpha and omega, the
beginning and the end, the all father.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus was not telling his followers to jump off a cliff.
No, he wasn't.
Just that herd of swine didn't make out too good. But
those swine were also
were possessed swine. I have no use for possessed swine myself. They're hard to manage. They're going to jump off. I have a note here before we go on to more questions, though, but about cults. What would define a cult? LaVeyan Satanism, thriving in the Church of Satan, the first Church of Satan in the 1970s, founded in San Francisco in 1966 on Walpurgis Knot, and their titular head was Anton Szandor LaVey, self-styled showman, but an intriguing person. And I would not classify the Church of Satan as a cult. Now that shouts out cult, Satanism, but an outrageous name. However, I would not brand that as a cult because they were not taking away the free thought of their followers. You were asked to contribute money, but there was no they didn't take up a collection either. It was voluntary. So that was not a cult. It was just founded by a very charismatic leader. Yes, but and it had the veneer of diabolism, but it was, it wasn't that.
He would tell his followers to be rebellious. So in some form,
rebellious in the spirit of Lucifer, that kind of rebellion, throwing off coils. Yeah, he didn't say defy laws of the land. In fact, he was very law abiding.
Yeah,
he's a strange character.
In some form of fashion, he liked to abuse the drugs, and those are illegal technically. So, but
I never heard that he abused drugs. I mean, there were people who were interested in fringe members who, were drug abusers. But that was only to their own detriment.
Yeah, I bet he did a few things in his life, though.
Well, he did some bizarre things, not illegal things, but bizarre things.
Yeah.
Like to keep a full-grown Nubian lion in his house. He even scratched one of his daughters. Well, his Black Panther did, and then the lion was kind of a problem too. Took ours. I'm not saying he wasn't offbeat, to be sure.
Very much so.
Yeah, but I would not classify, if you read into what constituted the first Church of Satan, that's not a cult.
Yeah.
However, why did I write that?
Talking about the Temple of Satan.
No, I don't disagree with what I said about Satanism. Just security and conformity. Yeah, that's a criteria. And well, Jehovah's Witness. Now, to me, that's borderline. No disrespect to adherents of Jehovah's Witness, but and witness,
Well, I equivalent those to Mormons too.
Yeah. But these are. You could give an argument for those religions being a cult, or you could say they were not. It's voluntary membership. You can join. Maybe kind of tough to get out once you are. But your freedom is certainly subjugated with these groups, especially the Jehovah's Witness. There are things you cannot do anymore, and you have it's reinforced that you think and behave a very certain way, very certain criteria to that. So you could debate either way as to whether these are cults or not. They have elements of cultism, and control, but you join of your free will.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
and so ostensibly you can leave of your free will.
Well, yeah, I think not all considered cults can follow the guidelines of the three: the charismatic leader, of course, mind control and exploitation. Like a lot of people tend to believe that the Bible Belt, like we were talking about. Yes. And of course, then there is the burnt over territory, which is the area of creation of spiritualism, Mormonism, Pentecostal, all these other specific things.
Oh, they interest me, yeah.
Offshoots
of Christianity.
But a lot of people say that these offshoots, these things from the burnt over territory, are cults. That they're these hives.
You got to look at the influence they exert over their followers, before you decide it's a cult.
Yeah, very much so.
They can, you don't have a lot of freedom when you belong to some of these strong religions.
Especially,
I might even say quasi-religions, because we talk about Scientology, founded by L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
He was a science fiction writer.
Very famous one, too.
He submitted a manuscript to H.P. Lovecraft. And H.P. Lovecraft said after that interview, this young man is going places.
And he did.
And but he had this whole system of, mythology, outer space people.
As it starts out, though, doesn't that, Scientology, when you first read about what it's about, the world's all messed up, and we're going to use scientific methods to try to straighten it out. We're just going to form this group of ultra smart people who all are dedicated to saving the world. Doesn't it sound fantastic?
Well, it sounds good at first until
how could you not fall for it?
Space aliens and other worlds into it, yeah.
In their own god, yeah.
Yeah, but on its face, it sounds like a good idea, I think.
Oh, yeah, but don't they all? But that does. That, and because of its novelty, that seemed like the salvation, the new order.
Right, you got to think of the times, too.
Now we got to make it right. Now we got it down.
Yeah.
It sounds like that at first.
And I think those certain facades are what makes certain gullible people lean towards those certain things. Like some people that are science fiction lovers hear that, this is a religion. Like hell, I'm a big Star Wars fan. People look at,
right.
Like,
right. You gotta,
in Australia, the Jedi Knight Order is a real religion in Australia.
Yes.
So can you consider that a cult? Because
we
know that's not factual.
Do they worship the Force?
Yes, I think they do. Yes.
Don't we all?
Well,
unless we have
those of us who know, we should. Well, you were born with a high, concentrate of
midichlorians.
I'm the one. Who's midichlorian? Well, I don't know if you're the one.
I'm the one.
Time will tell.
Can I interject for 1 minute, guys?
What's that?
A lot of our viewers and their comments are not showing up on this chat that you see scrolling by.
Right.
I'm just looking, between mine and Carl's Facebook pages, we have a lot of people, a lot of friends watching, and mostly just saying hello that do not show up over here. Just so you know. Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, hopefully we'll cover your questions if you're not able to answer.
Yeah, hopefully.
I let them know that I would relate anything. Let's say we've got Candace, Sean Michael Sullivan, Dave Grist, Ed Broderick, Laurie Urso, Jesse Bravo, Chris Sanders, Jim Brown, Keaton Sander Johnson, hello, Carly Hall. Let's see, I think I got everybody on this list to say hello to, just to let you know that we are here. I am watching, your comments come through.
That's
Yeah.
weird. There's no questions coming through.
But if you do have some, like strong questions that you want answered, there's, some definite questions, get in touch with us afterwards even.
Yeah.
We'll
Yes.
address your question.
Yes, I just want people to know I'm not ignoring them. It's just really hard for me to keep scrolling back and forth between them and listening to you guys at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't want
definitely.
to miss a minute.
You want to take a meditative pause where you look for questions? Because we'll stay here and be quiet until
Nobody wants to watch you two meditate, trust me.
Um,
Another problem is that for some reason, Kyle's Facebook is on like some new setup where it says that there's 23 comments, but only like 5 of them are showing up. It won't let me see the rest of them.
There's some kind of bizarre filtration.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear
apologize,
from
guys.
you. Yes,
Well-
we'd like to hear from you.
Well, we're waiting about that. Want to get to we are always approaching time. It always goes fast.
And we're so informed.
I want to talk about a person that inspired the People's Church, Jim Jones, and especially in the times that we are in now with the racial tensions. This man was a key component of the racial war, and this person would be Father Divine, right? Who actually thought he was God.
Or wanted a lot of people to think he was.
Yes, right? Yes,
but I'm sure he had delusions of
But-
godliness.
But
of godhood.
he was a key component of the racial wars back in those days. And
He incited. He was an instigator.
He was an instigator. So it's like he instigated this racial tension, and now we see it today. And maybe we wouldn't see it today if we didn't see it back then. I know that's a whole nother scape that we won't get into because it's political, and people have their opinions on that, and we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings today. But I think if you look at Father Divine and what he was able to do to a whole race in America and instigate, it's very powerful to see what certain people can do to their followers, to the people that are listening to these words, and how these evils can be created. Because making a whole race and instigating violence, and he would instigate protests, and some of them weren't the nicest protests in the world, but he'd instigate these things. And a lot of these cults instigate violence. One we haven't talked about yet, primarily, is Charles Manson.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what him and his
Notorious.
followers did. One of the most notorious of them all.
I mean, God, did he exert influence over his followers or what? The Manson family, and we know how that ended up. And he was legendary. Supposedly, he could resurrect a dead animal. There's a story that Charles Manson, they were living out in the desert, and the morning in one place, he picked up a dead bird and breathed on it, blew on it, and it flew away. And what is this? Our cult-like mania here? This is what
I had a question. I put it on the screen. What is James eating? Hershey's Nuggets.
Died.
Well, now Hershey's has to pay us a stipend.
Yes.
Now you get
Sponsored by Hershey.
And we're not just advocating, we're actually consuming the product here. And this is why we get so energetic in our discussions.
I think we really truly just love it, though. It's cult's always been a fascination thing because, I think specifically, and I'm kind of beating the dead horse here, but specifically looking at the paranormal and the evils we have come across. True evils, I do believe, that are non-physical beings, what we would quantify as demonic. We dealt with these things, and we have looked at the atrocities these things can cause. But it's always fascinating to me, as much as these evil entities manipulate and are parasitical to the human race, how much so humans ourselves are as well, and how humans can put so much evil on this plane, because you can say
Prey upon each other, yeah.
yeah, you can say it's,
We're a predatory
Yeah.
species.
yeah, you could say it's
Some
moral
predators.
ethic code, and everybody has a different moral ethic code, especially specifically like
Yeah.
non-developed cultures that aren't still exist to this day, that don't have no freaking idea about the modern world. They do
Yeah,
exist.
they're
so
technologically and communicatively limited.
Yeah.
So they're not polluted in that way. Or
so maybe
influenced.
they would think differently, but that's, we've had shows on what is evil and would evil exist without humans, and we've both equated to the fact that we don't believe so in some nature, because evil is something. And I think this is where we start to look, is that we've been presented what is good and evil, but we always want to look for the evil in some form or fashion, because it's so it's so pulling to the people. Like, a common trait of it is, without darkness you wouldn't have light. So I think
one begets the other.
one begets the other.
But once you have
yeah.
any element of light, it dispels the darkness, because that's what your attention will go to.
Mm.
It's no longer total darkness. Who cares about total darkness? Anyway,
Yeah.
there's not a lot you can do with it. But if there's one light, one candlelight, one candle flame, then that dispels the darkness, and all it takes.
And
It doesn't light up the room, but it gives you a point of light.
And for these people that join the cults, the followers that have had this trauma or this gullibility to this, maybe that charismatic leader is that candle light, that one light for them. And that's what
people are always seeking
engulfs them. And
people are also looking for rungs through life, because we don't come with an instruction book in this life. So, and our gods become humans when, we're lacking phenomena, and we're lacking, manifestation of God. We have these people telling us how to live our lives, and they are divinely inspired, so they claim. So that gives us a focal point. They become the gods that we are seeking. I think the devil has a massive computer screen, like a real good unit, and he's got them all over his wall and all. I think he sits back and laughs a lot. It just, set us in motion, let us take it from there. Because, human beings as a species are capable of such atrocities.
Yeah,
You have to admit that some of these people are just genius.
They are.
Come up with this stuff.
Can't we admire them in a way, in that sense of what they can achieve as far as mind control?
Long-term planning, psychological,
psychological warfare, basically.
Yeah, basically warfare. You're right.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Succeeded that long, when I've started a cult, they just, we get 10 people.
Yeah, you can't really call it a cult. I can't quantify that, because people would be mad. I served in the U.S. Army, and I respect our military. But look at the military. You go in the military, they break you down and bring you back up again. That's what a cult does. They break you down. They indoctrinate you.
You become, indoctrinate.
Yeah. So
you're part of that elite group.
Yeah.
Indoctrination and inculcation. Like take away their free will, build them up to your specifications.
Right.
Always a bad thing. There is such a team, there is value in teamwork.
Of course.
But that's what they call it,
Right. There's a fine line.
Yeah. But can they think on their own? Every situation is different.
But those are the good to the bad. You see like something like the military that does that kind of same mindset, but then you see like a Charles Manson family or the People's Church. Well, the People's Church, regardless, 1,000 people did die, but they also took their life. Well, you could say they took their own lives. Maybe they were suppressed to do that. I mean, that they really truly believed that they would go to the promised land, which I don't get.
Right. Yeah, you've got people. Some of them promise people are wonderful forever.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go up to the stars and live on another planet, or someplace that's better than this place.
Was that Heaven's Gate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they actually were supposed to, in spirit form, they were going to go onto the spaceship.
Yeah, Heaven's Gate.
They're all going onto the spaceship.
Good luck with that.
And
they're out there someplace.
And then there's the Knights of the Solar Templar.
So there's the indoctrination that gets them to that point where they believe these things.
And how about the Church of the Seventh Indulgence?
Yeah.
That was a cult I almost started a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
I never got off
the Seven Indulgence.
This goes back to
we have a question on the message board. I guess some are getting through. What is the largest cult in the world, and what do you think makes Christianity, I think she just answered her own question, different from every other cult?
Well, earlier, Christianity escapes from the contracts of mind control and exploitation. Yeah, you do give money at the pews when they ask, but you don't have to give it. It's not like they'll say, you don't give money, you're going to hell. So there's different wordings. There's different ways that the Christian church, especially Catholics, maintain a good and holy life as best as they can. And nobody's perfect. Of course, there's bad things that happen in the church, and sometimes things I don't agree with, like unfortunately some priests being hit with child molestation and stuff like that. But in that same form, they don't go on the aspects of evil tendencies. They're not trying to control. The Christian belief systems, 2.9 billion people. 2.9 billion. Get that number in your head. 2.9 billion.
Which is 1,000 million.
It's
a million,
a lot
which
of
is
freaking people.
1,000 and 1,000 of those.
Now, as far as the cults, they have that charismatic leader. They have that exploitation, and they have that mind control. That's what makes them difference between Christians. And thank you, Jonathan. Christianity is based on love. Well, cults can be based on love too, for themselves and their inner well workings. But what I would say the largest cult is probably Scientology, to be honest with you. I think Scientology is huge. I think nothing really controls. You could say Protestants are. Yeah, that's a can of worms. I'm not.
Yeah, you get into
open.
denominations too, but there are also besides the larger denominations, there are sects.
Yeah,
they may call themselves Christians. They may be Christians, but they're not very Christian in their behavior.
They're not loving.
They're not very Christ-like.
Yeah,
it depends. There's a lot of individuals out there, and there's a lot of sects.
Yeah,
SECTS, and but Christianity as a whole, I don't know if I'd call that a cult.
No, definitely. If Satanism is not a cult, then Christianity.
However, Tacitus, the chronicler, the first century Roman chronicler, where we get taciturn, the root word taciturn, because he was known for being very direct,
definitely,
and sardonic. He reported that there was a riot in the village incited by the cult of the Nazarene.
Just talking about Jesus and his followers, Yeah.
So then, in its early stages, of course, it was known as a cult. It's perspective. A cult has a lot to do with perspective.
Well, you also had the monotheistic versus polytheistic back then as well. The Romans were believed in many gods and goddesses at that point in time.
Don't we call them pagans now?
Oh, they were pagans technically, but
but
that had a lot to do with it to them because. Back then, the Romans were the largest empire, and they were pagans. They thought that anything that intruded on that.
Yeah.
You look at the Egyptians with the Jews. That's a perfect example. There's Moses right there for you. So they thought they probably were a cult at one point in time.
Oh,
they probably thought
when they're smaller and before they gain acceptance, they have a cult status.
Yeah, that's why we said that's why you can take in some form or fashion cult plus time equals religion.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the pagans throw a better party. They do. I mean, we've got COVID restrictions now, of course, but the pagans, they throw good parties. That's Saturnalia. It's the Bacchanalia.
No communal baths in the parties. Not in Rhode Island, anyway.
She knows things we don't.
Oh, yeah.
Any more questions that came through?
Those are the only ones I see on our feed here. Like I said, I've been trying to scroll back and forth, and not everything seems to be showing up. I was just doing a little bit of looking up information on. Remember the Moonies, Sun Young Moon?
Yes, I remember them very well. They were strange they're strange anyway.
Well, now one of his sons, his name's Young Jin, but they call him Sean Moon, has his own cult. Look it up. They just all carry guns.
They're a gun cult?
That is what the religion is based on. I wish I knew how to share these pictures, but Unification Church, it's a gun cult now. You just bring your AR to mass and they bless it. It's so strange.
I remember there being a yoga cult actually, where they would be this cult of yoga people, and there's two central beings, and they revered this one person. They'd have stadiums filled They're like,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. I forget the name.
Oh, yes. He had a name. Something yoga. God, he
I know what you mean.
recruited
I know what you mean.
teachers.
It's crazy.
Doesn't that begin with a B or something? You can.
Bikram yoga.
Yeah, big room yoga. It's crazy
Yeah.
how big they were. Like, yoga, really? Yeah.
Again, these women had trained for years and years to become yoga teachers. He offered them a chance to have their own studios because he was like kind of franchising them out, and they'd pay like $10,000 to $20,000 to go study with him. And all he wanted to do was sleep with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yoga. Oh, what you can get away with.
And he's still in business. He's in Mexico. They can't touch him. They can't arrest him.
Yeah.
You're still in business? Holy
He's still in business. People are still falling for it. It's terrible.
Well, you know who else is still in business?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. You could consider that a cult, though. You can consider that a cult of followers.
Somebody went down in flames, and yet he still has. I'll say he. Has a slew of followers.
Yeah. Hey, look at movies, cult classics, right? They have a cult following. People, right. people legit will go crazy and kill people over Star Wars. Like, Darth Vader was the father.
I don't know about that. Are we legit?
No, you're not.
Oh my gosh.
You're not, Luke. You're not.
I gotta say that was a good thing because I'm going back to 1977, but that was not. No spoiler alert, but that was not ruined for me. That still got to me. No, actually, it was the sequel, but
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back before the Return of the Jedi. It was like no, Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, James, we all saw them like those last 3 movies first, like the way they were made.
I did too. I seen the release.
Yeah.
I seen the re-releases before Phantom Menace.
Re-releases, yes. Re-releases.
1999. I think 1999 or 2000. Phantom Menace.
That's probably the last time I went to a movie with a girl. I wanted to see that in New York State. Yeah. But that wasn't ruined for me, dude. I know we're not on to cults now. I mean, we could relate this to cults.
Well, it's a cult classic. It has cult in the name.
Yeah, but the Jedi weren't a cult. The Empire.
It's not religion.
Well, the Sith was a cult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In some form or fashion, they exploited their followers and they mind controlled their followers. And
well, since we only have 2 minutes left, that sounds like a topic for another show, and how the Sith were a cult.
Star Wars.
No, you're not. At least as this was your topic, is there anything that you would like, even though there's 2 minutes, is there anything you want to hit upon with cult?
No, I didn't think there were going to be any answers. I just thought it would be something interesting for people to discuss and talk about and listen to.
Yeah, definitely.
Demonology.
It does, very much so.
Because this is one aspect we explore.
Why people do what they do? What drives them? Is it evil? Is it evil outside themselves? Is it evil inside themselves?
That's something Panorama Paranormal, directed by Elise, would explore. Cult activity, and there is remnants. Like what was found 2 years ago in Freetown? Was it a year and a half ago? It wasn't even 2 years ago. A white goat, was obviously ritualistically sacrificed, and that was found out there in Freetown, where that cult murder was.
Well, put a shameless plug in there because you always shamelessly plug your book.
I have no shame.
Talk about Freetown State Forest in that specific conversation. I am in the Freetown State Forest chapter on Sam Baltruse's book, Mass Murders, and Sam and I.
What don't I know about you?
Sam and I explore the Freetown State Forest.
I thought you were going to say exploited the Freetown State Forest.
Yeah, they cut the trees down and sold them for lumber.
Trees, mass murders. Yeah, you exploited mass murders there. Oh God, yeah. We should go there sometime, but it's still happening.
Yeah, I found some Santeria remnants in one of my cemeteries one time. I just went to rake some leaves and I found like a dead chicken and pennies and candles. I was like, oh no.
Coincidence? I think not.
And little old Johnston, who would have thought?
So, yeah, right. Could you imagine? But we don't know next week's topic yet, so look forward to hearing what that is for our listeners. And
if anybody has any suggestions, please just let us know either on our Facebook page or by email, or I don't know, send a carrier pigeon.
Or if there's a special guest you would like us to have on, specific topic you'd like us to do,
We will hear you.
Definitely hear you.
We have acted upon your suggestions.
And definitely, I know Mama Elise brought it up earlier in the show, but we did announce a new event, 3 locations, Wishing in Mass.
That is very new, yeah.
The tickets are on sale for the tickets on sale now. The event is December 12th.
So it would be a great Christmas present for someone. Buy a ticket for yourself and for that special someone.
Yes,
Yeah.
Demonology presents.
We're just
Check the Halls.
I can't take any credit for that. Yes.
That was
with James.
Sorry. Yeah.
Nor for tonight's topic, because that was purely Elise's suggestion.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Thank you for discussing, gentlemen.
Oh, no, definitely.
Oh,
it
my
was
pleasure.
a great topic. I was excited to do
Interesting.
it.
We could easily do another hour on this.
Oh, more so. There's so many cults out there that we hadn't even touched upon within the show tonight.
This was kind of like an overview, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe a part 2 in the future.
By then, more cults will have sprung up.
More cults have sprung up, or maybe we bring on like a social scientist on with us, and maybe we can dig even deeper. And
I can always find somebody with opinions.
there's always opinions are great. Everybody has.
You
them,
know
right?
what Clint Eastwood's Dirty Harry said about opinions?
What is it?
I can't even repeat it on this forum.
Well, okay. Well, everybody has opinions.
I thought you knew
Asshole,
that.
basically.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Everybody's got one.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
But everybody, hey, Carl, do you have anything lasting words? For tonight?
Yeah. Another quote from Clint
All
Eastwood.
right, go ahead.
Deserves got nothing to do with it. Because nowadays, everyone's
You asked.
At least any last words for tonight?
Nope. I
Well,
got nothing.
she was sincere. She wasn't using that as a segue. She meant business.
Nope, you guys are 2 minutes over, so
So
we'll have to call it a night.
ended tonight. If you were interested in that event and you want the ticket link, the scrolling thing on the bottom, Duo Demonology, www.demonology.org. You can purchase the tickets through demonology.org.
Any questions, get in touch with any one of us.
Very much so. And we'll see everybody this Saturday at Powerfest, Maine, 12:15.
If you can make it, yeah. I'll be there. James will be.
Will we?
Well, I hope
Oh,
so, because
shit.
otherwise there's going to be a big empty space.
Okay, we'll be there, guys. All right, buddy.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.